Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to go ahead and work on a couple of these sections here. Now, I would say because we have a large graphic here, this chart graphic, with a fair amount of content next to it, we don't want these squished up too much. So at this point, we're going to choose to go ahead and take these two rows side by side and collapse them into, two columns rather, side by side, and collapse them into two rows. So what we'll do first is take the type, the most important elements, and feature it at the top, and then the chart graphic can go underneath. All right, so let's take this and we'll bring it all over, and we want to center everything. So we will center this as well, get that centered up, and push it up right around here. I think we can drag this down a little bit. All right, that's looking good right there. In terms of font size and such, it's looking actually pretty solid, so we can probably leave that alone. And then also take this and make sure that is centered. And we can also extend this out to the very left and right, so Control-Shift-4. You don't necessarily have to. It could be completely up to you if that's something you want to do. We can make these extended out a little bit further too. I think that's fine though where it is. Control-Shift-4. All right, that's looking solid. Next up is going to be the testimonial section. So we have this element here that we can drag in. And this is going to stay pretty much exactly the same because everything's already collapsed in this section. So we can just select all that, hold Alt, drag it in. Oops, don't want to do that though. Now if we group it up temporarily, we can easily center it. There we go. And look at that. So as you can see, we're really moving along quickly. Now one thing is, yeah, you want to make sure that this isn't going to overlap this, and it's not because it's already faded off at the top. All right. And then the next section, we still have enough room to keep this same flow because these have a fair amount of white space in between them. So we can still manage to use this same section. So what we'll do is just take all this, and it's going to be a little bit of work to resize it though. So Control-Shift-4, we'll get this up right here. And now, of course, we have all this room to make up for. And that will be a matter of just making these various adjustments. So the first thing we'll do is get this all the way over here to the side. And it's going to be difficult because this is more of a complex layout. We can't just take everything. For instance, just select all this and just move it in. I mean, we could, if we selected perhaps all of these little check marks and made it so that they're not scale, although some of them, they all say left and top. It's when you double click into them, they're at the scale mode. So we could just manually move those. I think that would be easier than having to double click in and changing all these options. So to do that, we're just going to move things over here. First get this container over here, and then now we'll hit Control-Shift-4 to get rid of that. And now we could start to move these elements into their appropriate positions. All right, take these. We'll move them in as well. And then finally, we do have some content that's outside of here. It's these three elements over here. So if we select just outside of here, we'll see we want to deselect this, hold Control. There we go. Now we can bring these in. We also have, I believe there's a label off the top here. So if we click on this one, we should find, there it is. So now we could drag it over here. All right, so I know we have a bunch of lines. It's kind of a mess right now. Let's move this over here. We'll move this one right in this area. We'll also move this one right here. Let's select these. Kind of tricky. All right, and there we go. I think that's a pretty solid, just scaling it in, which is how it would be if the front-end developer structures everything correctly in CSS. All right, so no reason to stop now. Let's continue on. These next sections, obviously very easy. We have a lot of space, so we're going to maintain the same exact structure. Let's just group those and center them. We do have this element down here, so we can bring that in. Make sure we will send it back. All right, and then we just have the footer to worry about, in which case we bring this over. Now if we move it like this, it is affecting things. So let's see if we can go back to the original component to make some adjustments so that it will fix this. All right, so what we'll want to do is, because we have to really shrink this in, we'll go ahead and right click, or not right click, we can just come over here to detach the instance and just squash this in here. Now if I take all these elements, span them out, we can push this over here, get our logo back in line over there, and we may need to push this closer. We'll see how this works. We'll take all these elements. I'm not sure if I'm selecting everything I need to be, because I don't think they're in a group. Let's go ahead and ungroup everything. So we're going to push this out that way. This will be pushed out this way. Oh, there we go. That's the issue. So we're going to take this whole section, move it over here, and then all this section extend out. We're going to see if we have enough room. Control Shift 4, get that right there in line. We could actually get this right here. And there we go. So Control Shift 4. Oh, we'll want to take this out as well. All right, just like that. Okay, so now we could take all of this and we can create another component out of it. So create component, and we'll call this tablet footer. Copy that. Go back to our components. We'll change this to footer desktop. Footer for tablet. Paste that right here. All right, and go back to our tablet design. Go to Assets. All right, there is the home page that is essentially reconfigured rather for tablet. Now, of course, many things remain the same, but that's kind of how the tablet is. Some things you'll be able to just kind of push closer together. Some things you will have to break from columns to rows. And then we're especially going to see that once we get to the phone section. But first, before we do that, we do need to, let's go ahead and delete that. We do need to create our subpages in the tablet variation.